Taxation in Spain, especially for foreigners who are new moving to the country, can be a very complex and intricate subject. How does the tax system work? How much will I have to pay? And what do I have to declare? Are common questions going through new Spanish residents' mind when it comes to taxation. Today I'm joined by two experts, Flor and Alina from Pro Spain Consulting, who are here to answer all of these questions. So, let's get right into the interview. All right, so I'm with Flor and Alina from Pro Spain Consulting. Thank you both for joining.
Thank you so
Hello.
much.
Yeah, hello, Johnny. Thank you so much to invite us.
I'm really excited for this conversation. There's always a lot of tax questions that come from my viewers, and I think it's a very interesting topic that's often overlooked when people move abroad. So we've got a lot on the agenda to talk about today. But before we get into that, maybe if you could just tell us a little bit about yourselves, your own experience, and a bit about how Pro Spain Consulting can help possible viewers watching today.
Oh, okay, so I start. I'm Alina. I'm a lawyer. I'm a tax advisor as well. It's like, in Spanish, we call it like gestor administrativo. And I'm a partner of the Pro Spain Consulting. I'm working in this area more than 10 years. And we have more than 3,000 clients with tax questions, difficult situations, tax inspections, and a lot of experience in this area.
Yes, well, my name is Flor. I am head of tax department for Spain Consulting. And yes, we have the advantage that we face so many different situations in our company. We help autonomous or self-employees, we help companies. So yes, we really are really excited to help you all with all the questions they have about taxes, which is an area that we know and love.
Yeah, fantastic. So, guys watching, if anything throughout the video is of interest to you, or if you think Pro Spain Consulting can be of assistance to you, then be sure to check out the link in the video description. And with that, let's get into some of the questions. So, a lot of people who perhaps have a NIE or a TA are wondering, are they a tax resident in Spain? So, how do we know if someone is tax resident in Spain?
So, when we speak about the tax residence, we have to make a difference between, for example, some of our clients tell, so I get an year, so will I become a tax resident? Or I take a tier, it's like a foreign ID card. So I'm already a tax resident. So it's a different concept. The first thing we speak about administrative residence in Spain, that we have to be different, that we have a difference with a tax resident. So to become a tax resident, we have to follow at least one of the following points. So the first point is that we have to stay in Spain more than 183 days. So if you go out just for 2 weeks, it also will be taken into account as you stay in Spain. I don't know if you heard about Shakira and very, you know,
Yeah.
a very interesting case here in Spain. So it was the same mistake with Shakira. So when she was abroad, it was taken into account for her tax residence, because if you are abroad less than 3 months, it will take into account as your tax residence, so as you stay in Spain. Okay, this is a very important point. The second important point, that you maybe not stay here more than 183 days, but your economic center where you get your major profit is in Spain. So in this case, you also you can become a tax resident. And the third point, but this is third point, it's like a little bit flexible, but if your legal spouse and children stay in Spain, so in this case, they also you also can become a tax resident.
Yeah. Let's come back to the second point, Alina, because I think points 1 and 3 are fairly black and white. But I think at number 2, there's perhaps a gray area as to what is considered your center of economic interest. So how would perhaps the tax authorities determine that your center of economic interest is in Spain?
Yeah, so it's very easy. Your major profit should be in Spain. For example, if you have different profits, so the first thing is activity. For example, if you have like a dividends and something interest, it can be not considered like for tax residence. But if you're working in Spain and your major profit comes from Spain, in this case, of course, it's you can be considered like a tax resident. It's a very good question because it's like, I'm living in Spain. Should I consider myself like a tax resident? How I know that I'm a tax resident? Okay, this is the first step that normally we do with our clients. We check it in the tax agency, because you can live in Spain and be sure that you are not tax resident, but when we go to the tax agency, we can understand what tax agency knows about you. And quite often we find a lot of surprises. For example, like a tax agency for example, you are renting apartment. So for the tax agency, since you are renting apartment, you become a tax resident because they consider that from this moment you move in permanently in Spain. Of course, we can change this. This is not a big problem. Oh, I already become a tax resident. What I have to do? So I have to present my tax declaration for sure. The question is not for sure. Okay, we always have to check. Because maybe you are still a tax resident of another country, for example, USA, Canada, some countries like this. And in this case, we can change your tax residence to the not tax resident of Spain. This is also possible.
Okay, great. And of course, Spain as well is broken up into 17 autonomous communities, and tax falls within the competency of some of the regional administrations. So how does that work in practice as well when you have central government taxes and autonomous community taxes in Spain?
Well, the most important here at this stage is to get to know which are the main taxes you as a physical person are responsible of or you are taxable for. So the main tax we have in Spain is the income tax. Income tax declaration, it's a mixed tax that it's the big one, but has part of it depending on the regions, the administrative regions of Spain, as you said. So that's our main tax, which everyone needs to pay in Spain, whether they are tax residents or non-tax residents. In case of non-tax residents, they will only declare the income they receive in Spain or generated in Spain. Then we have other taxes that depend on your personal situation. For example, we have the tax that depends on your wealth, that the wealth tax. It's a tax that it's from the state, like the central government, but administrative regions in Spain, they have the competence to tax it to the differently depending on where you live. So it's not like it's a tax of the administrative region where you live, but you pay taxes differently there. So there are some legal concepts which are maybe really difficult to explain here, and they are not that relevant. The most important thing for someone who needs to pay taxes is that the income tax declaration will be different depending on where this person lives. That the VAT tax, for example, it's a tax that it's the same no matter where you live. It's a tax that it's can be 4, 10, or 21% depending on which goods or services we're talking about. And then that the donations tax, inheritance tax, they all depend on where you live, the administrative region. Then the other types of income you may receive, you will declare in your income tax. So income tax, it's a big, huge tax that involves all the income you have. And it's also subdivided per type of income. So it's really interesting. And also it's really great to get to know this. But then other taxes depend on whether you have a property in Spain or not. So you may not pay some taxes if you do not meet the requirements to pay these taxes. So if I do not own a property, I won't pay the property tax. I won't pay plusvalia tax. There will be some types of taxes that I will never pay if I do not have this from the very first moment. So for us, it's really important to get to know our client, get to know what's your case, get to know where do you live and which is your economical activity, for example, to know which taxes you're obliged to pay. because not everything works for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
and before you move, so sorry, just something to add. Before you move to Spain, it's really nice to know in which where you are going to move, because, for example, the wealth tax. So, if in Barcelona you will have a wealth tax, so you will have to pay everything then more than 500,000 euros. For example, in Madrid and in Andalusia, in Marbella, you don't have wealth tax. So you have it, but you don't have to pay. So the difference can be very, very big. That's why it's important also to choose your future city where you're going to live.
Yeah, it was by coincidence that I ended up in the lowest tax autonomous
Yeah.
community in Spain by moving to Madrid. I didn't know it when I moved here, but I'm kind of glad it is the way it is.
Yes.
But yeah, just for kind of the viewers watching, what are some of the more advantageous and some of the higher taxing autonomous communities that you've seen?
Well, for example, where you live in Madrid, they have very low tax rates. The tax pressure is really low, so many people are living in Madrid because of that reason. Madrid is a beautiful city, of course, but in terms of taxes, it's even more beautiful. Then also we have Andalusia. Here we have a lot of bonifications. For example, for the donations tax, inheritance tax, it's almost gone, and also the wealth tax, as Alina said. Like the tax exists, but it's for people who have really a lot of money, which is not the major part of the community. So many people do not get taxed on that neither. On the contrary, we have other administrative regions in Spain where they suffer a little bit more of taxes, like Islas Baleares, for example, or Catalonia, where yes, they pay a little bit more, and they also have more than 10 different, like, specific region taxes also as well there. So, as Alina said, you have pros and cons, and when you move into a place like Spain, so huge, so beautiful, but so different, you need to consider, like, where do I want to have the center of my economical interest? Where
Yeah,
do I want to live? And because yes, this definitely is going to be translated into um, maybe have these benefits or not have these benefits. And sometimes people, for example, we had a case where a client, they were living in Catalonia, and they were about to receive a donation or an inheritance or something, and when they noticed that here in Andalusia they would you wouldn't pay that much, they were like, okay, then let's move to Andalusia. But it was too late. Like, it's not that easy to
yeah,
just from one day to another just change it. Um, Also, it's something that needs to be real and permanent. So once you've done this step, it's very complicated to change it. So yes,
yeah. So yeah, highlighting the importance of proper tax planning when you move.
yes.
Yeah, yeah. Great. So let's talk a bit more about specific taxes now. So we'll start with property taxes. So from my understanding, you've got obviously, ownership tax like the EB, and you've also got, if you own a property and you rent it out, you have to pay tax on it as well. So let's talk a little bit about these. So how EB works and how like rental income tax on properties works.
Yes, well, having a property in Spain will link you to Spain, whether you're a resident or non-tax resident. Let's start there. If I own a property, even if I am non-tax resident, I will have to pay some taxes over that property. The EB or IBI, it's the property tax. It depends on the town hall, like city hall, where the property is. It's a local tax, and it's mandatory paid yearly. This tax can be direct debit and also can be paid in multiple times during the year. So it doesn't have to be paid at once, but it's linked to who is the owner of the property, and it's calculated depending on the value, like cadastral value of the property. And the local administrations are the ones who fix that value, which doesn't have to it is not linked to the value of purchase of the property. It's a different value, is different to calculate the taxes. That's the one thing, first one. And second thing is that you will have to pay the income from this property. For example, let's imagine that you move to Spain, you have your house abroad, you know for sure that you do not want to be tax resident, and but you buy a property in Spain as an investment or as a second residence or to rent it out. In this case, your permanent residence will be abroad, and this second property you will have to pay in the income tax declaration, depending of you if you rent it out or if you keep it empty. If the property is being rented out, you will have to declare this rental as an income. You will be able to deduct some expenses, for example, the community fees and some other ones that can be deducted to calculate this income. And if in case the property is empty, you say, hey, I do not live there. I just keep it empty and come here for a couple of weeks at some moments of the year. In this case, you will also have to pay. It's a small amount, but it's calculated over the cadastral value as well, as I explained, and it's around 2%, more or less. That's how it's calculated, and you will pay according to the tax regime that you have. If you are non-tax resident, you have the fixed rate, and if you are a resident, the progressive scale will be applied over that income. And both of this type of income, whether it's rented out or empty, will be taxed in the income tax that we said, income tax declaration, which is filled one time per year.
Yeah, it's in case if you are not living in this house, in this apartment, but if you are living and it's your permanent residence, you're not paying nothing of income tax.
That's
You just
correct.
pay EB, and with EB you can have also some bonification if you have a registration, your empadronamiento in this apartment.
Yeah. Yeah. And the rental income tax, if I understood correctly as well, because you obviously got like the general base, which is where like work and income from an economic activity comes. Then you have the savings base, which is where investing income like capital gains, dividends would be taxed. The rental income comes through the general base, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct.
Okay, so yeah, it follows the progressive scales of each autonomous community if you're a resident. Yeah.
General rate is from 19 to 37. It's dependent of the incomes.
Yeah. Yeah. Perfect. Okay, so what are some of the biggest misconceptions that you've heard about tax in Spain, or that some of your clients have had about tax in Spain?
Really, we have already speak about that. That a lot of people, when they move to Spain, they're thinking that if they get near the number, the foreign number, or T like ID card, foreign ID card, they're thinking that they are tax residents, but really the tax residence is another concept. So they have always to check, because you can have a tier, but you cannot become a tax resident, and you can have a tier and become a tax resident. So it's depends on your own situation.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's correct. And also, uh, some people tend to also confuse the concept of tax residence and administrative residence. So they think that when we are talking about residence now at this meeting that we are having, we're talking about tax residence, that it's very different than administrative residence. So I may have a residence card, I have my, I don't know, my process done with extranjería, and I have not become tax resident yet. So it's different administrations who are in charge of saying your status about your residence. In this case, one is tax agency and the other one is foreign administration. So it depends on that, and many people really come to our office and say, I have we say, do you have residence here in Spain? Yes, I have NIE. And they show the NIE, and the NIE is just a number, just for a number for foreign people who wants to do some transactions in Spain, economical, for example. So it's very different, and we need to stop there and start explaining that there is a difference between this number and already having the right to stay legally here. So I think that's the big one, right, Alina?
Yeah,
That's very common.
that's one. And another point that I was thinking actually now is that if for example I take a TNO, I take a residence card in October, and I permanently stay in Spain, so I'm not immediately become a tax resident. In 2024, I don't become tax resident. I will become in 2025, and it's also important to know the exact year when you are become a tax resident.
Yes,
Yeah, because the tax year follows the calendar year in Spain, unlike countries like the UK and US that have different fiscal calendars. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's
that
true.
that's correct. And also we had a case where our client had become tax resident in Spain. For example, in May, she had moved to Spain in May and became eventually tax resident. She was thinking that maybe from January till May, all that income that she received abroad was not taxed here because she had become tax resident in May. And it's not like this. When you are a tax resident, it's applied for the full year. So you are a tax resident during a certain year in a country, and then in another country if you wish, for another yearly period. So yes, you if you become tax resident in Spain but arrived in Spain in May, for example, or in April, you need also to declare the income from January, February, March, also here in Spain. So that's very important because when we, as accountants, or when we're preparing the tax declarations, we ask our clients about their income. We need to really clarify that, like all the year income, please. And they're like, really, all the year, but really for those months as well. And yes, it's the full year. So this is also very common misconception.
Yeah. Yeah. The misconception that also comes to my mind that I see and hear a lot is a blanket statement of 50% tax, which is like partially true, but it's not true in the way that people think it's true. So do you want to address that as well?
Yeah, as you told before, so we have in Spain general rate and saving rate. Okay, so the first step that we have to do is determine the profit income, if it's a general rate or if it's a saving rate. For example, saving rate, it's dividends, interest, stuff like this. And general rate, it's income, for example, of your self-employment, of your work, salary, stuff like this. So after that, so if we go to the general rate, the rate could be from 90% till 47, and it's progressive. So you, for the first 12,000 euro, you will pay 19%. For the second, I don't know, 10,000 euro, you will pay 21%, and something like this. So we like it's an average amount. Okay, so you will not become for 50%. It is the first step, and the second step, if we go to the saving rate is just from 90% to 28. So this is also a common mistake of our clients, because they're thinking that it's everything is 50%. No, it's not true.
Yeah, the
And
only way
also,
you're going to pay like 47% tax is if you're earning like millions of euros and it's all coming through like salary or something like that.
Yeah.
yes, and also most of the people, most of them, they work for companies. There are a lot of workers, employees, and already their companies are obliged to withhold their income tax in their payrolls. So most of them, they do not know that they are already paying the tax during the year each month. So if you look at your payroll, you will see that there is a withhold for income tax. There is a withhold also for social security system. So everything is already there, uh, and many people do not even know that. For example.
Yeah, and you will have also some bonification, because, for example, you take something like 50,000 euros per year in this case, but you have two little children, so you will have also you can rest. So you can rest the amount, the first 5,500 for the first person, 2,700 for the second person and the stuff like this. So it's not payable for all amount, because you will be able to apply for some little bonifications that governments give you to you.
Yeah, it's a range of deductions to bring the tax
Yeah,
rate down.
exactly, deductions.
Yeah. Great. So let's say we have a tax resident or a non-tax resident in Spain. We've mentioned some of them as we've gone throughout the interview, like the annual tax declaration. What are some of the key obligations that someone who has economic interests in Spain that would make them liable for resident or non-resident taxes will need to keep in mind and fulfill throughout the tax year?
Well, main thing is that you need to keep always, like every year, your taxes up to date. You will have to fulfill the income tax declaration even though you think that you had no income. And this is done like this because tax agency is able to check the past 4 years, until the past 4 years, to check if you've finally fulfill your taxes. So even if you think you had zero, or that it's not like going to result to pay, you need to fulfill your tax declaration each year. That's one thing. Second thing I will recommend to everyone is to have your digital certificate and your tax advisor. Why? Because you need to be up to date. You need to check on your notifications. You need to know whether tax agency needs to tell you something or not. So information is power. In this sense, if I am I am not aware of my liabilities, I am not aware of my notifications, I am not aware of my tax world, to say in a way, my tax life, I am someone who is vulnerable to inspections, to do something wrong. And do not be afraid of asking a lawyer or a tax advisor whenever you need to understand it deeply, like, hey, how does this work for me? Always ask before you're going to do some economical transaction. That it's important. Ask before, please, before, not after, because after, sometimes when you ask after, maybe you made a mistake, which is human and pretty normal when you're not an expert. So, as expert advice to always be really informed and ask your tax lawyer, hey, I'm going to do this. I'm planning to receive some money from my family. They want to give me some money to my expenses in Spain, for example. It's not that simple, like, okay, let's do a transfer and that's it. Not that easy. So sometimes, to avoid any problems, if you are going to stay here in Spain for a while, you need to know that many things are taxable. So many things that you consider natural are taxable. So just ask before you do it, so you do it safely. And last thing, I would also recommend that you have the bank account open and working. Open and working to fulfill all your tax obligations, have everything direct debit. I think that's something really important. Some people are abroad, some people do not know how to pay their taxes at the bank, and we really help them with that, but they need to have also bank accounts, and also be aware which entities are able to uh, mm, be good for this, because not all the banks are allowed to pay taxes. That's a very important thing as well. Not some online banks do not work for that. And for every transaction, sometimes there is a tax. If I want to bring my car, for example, Alina, we had some complicated cases with cars. Many people who sell their cars or buy cars or bring cars from abroad, and they do not know they need to fulfill some taxes. And yes, there are taxes on that. So there are ways to not pay taxes on that. So if you're moving to Spain and you're bringing your personal issues, issues, no, your personal belongings. If you're bringing your personal belongings, there is a way where you shouldn't pay taxes on that. So maybe you should ask before you do this, before you bring everything here.
Yeah, and especially because when you ask before, we will be able to check all modification that we can apply, and maybe in your case you shouldn't to pay taxes. We just apply for a bonification. But if you do it after, it already could be late.
Yeah. Yeah, the moral of the story is it's easier to prevent a fire than to put one out.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So we've talked about like deductions throughout the course of the discussion as well. Obviously, a key way for people to lower their tax burden in Spain. What are some of the most common deductions that people can apply in order to reduce their tax burden in Spain?
Well, that really depends on where you live again. But if we're talking about general ones, is Alina already mentioned the income tax one, which are related not only to the main taxpayer but also to their family situation. This also helps to reduce the taxable base and everything that needs to be taken into account to calculate your tax. So you should have also all the documents related to your family translated into Spanish if they are from a foreign country with the corresponding legalization or apostille, in order to show everything that you have right to prove that you are able to apply for those bonifications, because some of them are like automatic applied and other ones need to be proven. So in these cases, you need to have your documents up to date.
And maybe some interesting deduction, because we have like personal deduction, families deductions. Okay, if the children have before 3 years old, or after, if children have more than 18 years old or not. We also have some I call it interesting deduction. Like for example, in this year I buy electric car, I can deduct like 20% of the amount of this car. If I invert in the, I don't know, the new energy system, like a solar panel, I can deduct also from 15 to 20% of my investment. Also, we can deduct if I rent apartment. It depending of your region, you can deduct some amount, because depending on where you live in, the amount and the person can change. Okay, because it's like a regional deductions, but it's also possible. Um, Adopting of the children, it's also give you a possibility to deduct. So there are list of deduction that you can apply. So as we told before, it's not so general. I get 50 I get 50,000 euros per year, so I have to pay 47 or 45%. No. You will deduct a lot, and after we will see which rate you will get.
Yes. And also a very important benefit is when especially when you moved, in the moment that you move into Spain, if you sell your permanent residence abroad to buy a new permanent residence in Spain, you can get the bonification on the capital gain of that sale. So you have two options. To not pay the capital gain in Spain. If you want to avoid this, you should sell your property before you move here. Think if you are going to buy another property. If the answer is no, you should move to Spain after you already have paid that tax abroad. Like, for example, if I sell my house next year, early next year, and I then move to Spain early next year, I will become tax resident next year. So that capital gain of selling my property, I will have to pay in Spain because that year I will be tax resident. If I sell my property in November this year, this capital gain will be from this year. And if I become tax resident next year, technically this obligation will not be fulfilled here in Spain, but in the country where I sold my property. That is if I am not planning to buy any property. If I am moving my whole life to Spain because Spain is wonderful and I want to buy the house of my dreams, then maybe it's interesting for me to invest this money on buying my new property. And then with some conditions, I will be able to get this capital gain completely like
Bonificated, yeah.
bonificate. Yeah, that's it.
Exemption, yeah. Is this only for people who have a property within another EU member state, or does it also apply to other countries as well? This complete exemption.
All the world. All the world.
Ah, okay, the whole world. And is there a time limit between the sale of one property and the acquisition of a new property?
There are some requisites. The major requisite that it have to be your permanent property before you move to Spain, become a tax resident, and the new property that you buy with this money will have to become your also permanent property in Spain.
Yeah, this is what I understood. Yeah, I just wasn't sure about what the difference between the time difference between the two transactions was.
Yes, because for example, also to be considered as a permanent residence, a property needs to meet also requirements. Like, it's not as easy as I just buy a property and I just declare it as my permanent residence and that's it. Some time needs to pass until tax agency considers it a permanent residence. So if I buy I sell my property, which is my permanent residence, I buy a new property, but let's imagine that after 1 year I sell it again and buy a new property, then that requirement wouldn't be met because the property I bought was not my permanent residence. It like normally it's 2 years.
Like 2 years, yeah.
2 years need to pass. I need to be living in that property. Like, it needs to be my permanent residence before I even consider to rent it out or sell it. And regarding the time that needs to pass from the selling of my property and buying a new one, I think it's also 2 years, Alina, right?
Yeah. It's 2 years in this
maximum.
year. It's magical. Yeah, it's a magical number because before you sell your own property, you have to live it at least 2 years. How you show it? You have to show it with registration, empadronamiento. It doesn't matter even if it's for region, okay? In US, in Canada, it doesn't matter. But if you sell it, you will have 2 years to buy your new own property where you will like your permanent establishment in Spain. And after that, you have to live another 2 years to be able to sell it and apply for bonification.
Yeah, makes sense. Magic number 2.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, a common question and a common attractive benefit of moving to Spain for a lot of foreigners is the Beckham law scheme.
Wow.
So, let's talk a little bit about the famous Beckham law. Who can get it? How does it work?
We love Beckham law, right, Alina? We love it.
Yeah, we manage a lot of Beckham laws. So the first step that you can apply for that the first year when you will become a tax resident. Before of this, you shouldn't be a tax resident during 5 years. And when you move to Spain, you move into Spain, have to be related with the first thing, for example, with the new contract. With if you become an administrator, the chief, okay, of the Spanish company, if you get startup visa, if you get digital nomad visa, but here, please attention, digital nomad visa, because you can get it in 2 ways. You can get it like a self-employment, so you will become here like autonomo, or you can get it like with a work contract, okay? And in this case, you have to prove the certificate of Social Security about that there's a convention between Spain and this country where you're from. So in this case, so you can apply for Beckham law just in one case of the digital nomad, when you can prove this certificate and when you are working for a company like a normal employee.
Yeah, a company outside of Spain as well, I understand.
A company outside of, so yeah, because when we speak about digital nomad, the company should to be outside. It can't be in Spain.
Yeah.
Okay. What more? The member of the family as well can apply for that. The deadline for that is the same year of the tax resident. Then the that your spouse will get the Beckham law. And I think that's all, no? Or maybe
Yes, that's the most common ones that can apply for Beckham law regime. And yes, as Alina said, needs to be done at the very first moment when you moved into Spain, you become tax resident. Because talking about misconceptions, many people think that Beckham law is like you are non-tax resident, and it's not like this. You become tax resident in Spain, but you pay taxes as a non-tax resident, so it's kind of mixed. That's why it's a tax benefit. It's the best of the both worlds because you are a tax resident in Spain, paying at a fixed rate, which is really great. And yes, you have 6 months from your social security inscription. Of course, different types of this counting these 6 months for digital nomads is kind of different, but generally you have these 6 months. After that period, you're not able to apply for it anymore, and the reason is that you become tax resident, you didn't apply for it. So the first requirement, which is prove that you have not been tax resident, you will not be able to prove it. So that's why it needs to be done at the very first stage when you move to Spain.
Yeah, and another point, why I have to choose Beckham law? The first thing that Flor told is because we have to pay just rate 24% before 600,000 euros and 45 years or 46 if it's
37, yeah.
37 in case of your incomes are more than 600,000 euros. Okay, but we count just the incomes in Spain. Okay, and any incomes in Spain, general rate and saving rate, because you can also get dividends in Spain. In case of you get dividends in Spain, in this case you will pay the saving rate, okay, from 19% to 28%. And in the world, the incomes of all the world will be taxable in Spain, just the general rate. So if it's related with your work's incomes, or I don't know, your like just work's incomes, no? Because
Yes.
because the other incomes like self-employment, dividends, interest, selling of your property, about that we were speaking just now, are not taxable in Spain. So that's why you have to choose. Beckham law. Okay, also we were calculated because some of our clients was thinking that if they get more than 50,000 euros, they were thinking that the Beckham law for them will be much more better than the general rate. But it's not true. We will calculate if you not have a family, so something like if you get more than 55,000 euros, it will start interesting for you Beckham law. If you don't have incomes abroad, okay, if you have incomes abroad, it's another questions.
Yeah.
Yes, like as Alina said, it's like something that you choose, but it's not mandatory. Like I can meet the requirements, for example, to apply for Beckham law regime, but maybe it's not interesting for me because I do not have that much income. I do not have income abroad. I do not have properties abroad that I'm going to sell in a couple of years. I just live from my work, and okay, to me, it's like the progressive scale is not that much. So it's like not everyone sees it suitable, but for some people, it's really, really, really interesting.
Yeah, it's very important, yeah, to know if your situation is one of those where it is beneficial or not. I
Mm-hmm.
guess, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and you shouldn't have to pay the wealth tax for all the belongs in abroad. Okay,
Or your assets
you
abroad.
will,
Yeah,
yeah, assets. Yeah, you will have to pay just for assets that stay in Spain in case if you will have to pay this wealth tax. It's also
Yes,
important.
which is
perfect.
pretty nice.
Solidarity, another taxes. That's
Yeah,
also
yeah,
interesting in case you get more than three millions of the assets.
yeah. Perfect. So we have obviously the Beckham law. We had recently in Madrid another law introduced. named after another footballer, Kylian Mbappé. So
Yeah.
there's now the introduction of the Mbappé law, which I talked about a little bit on a video on my channel. So, but I think you guys as experts maybe know a little bit more than me. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about the Mbappé law and how it's
Well,
different.
yes, it's a tax benefit that is for, well, only for people who live in Madrid, moved to Madrid, sorry. So this is not like Beckham law that all people in Spain will be able to join. This is only for people who live in Madrid, like you, Johnny, like you. So when they moved to Madrid and when they have income like more than three, like, well, when they have huge income, they will be able to deduct the 20% of the part of the income tax that is related to the comunidad autónoma or administrative region. Because as we said before, in the income tax declaration, we have a part of it that is taxable in, like, in the general base, but in the general one from the state. And then we have the part of it taxed by the administrative region. So both of those percentage are really mixed, and then you have the final rate of your income tax declaration. So now let's imagine that you have like 300,000 euros to be taxed, and according to the general tax rate, you have to pay 25% or something like this, and from your comunidad autónoma it corresponds you to pay another 25, for example, or 27 or something like this. Then, according to this tax benefit, you deduct this 20% of the region of Madrid. So you finally would pay taxes at a 25%, which is really similar to Beckham law regime, finally. Um, and it will really lower a lot your tax pressure. So we are really jealous of it here in Andalusia. We should have something. Why isn't any football player coming here to any of our football teams like Granada or Cordoba or to Malaga so we can have also this tax benefit? It's
Yeah,
really
or Sevilla
interesting.
or Betis as well. Yeah.
Yeah, we really think that would be great, and we think that it's really good tax benefit for to people to move to Madrid, which is wonderful city in Spain, and we really love it. We are really like rooting for that.
Yeah. It's contingent on investments you make within Madrid, though, isn't it? How
Yeah.
much you can deduct. Yeah, that's the main thing to keep in mind. Yeah.
Yes, that's correct. But we still think Beckham law is better. We,
Yeah. I think it's more universal, definitely.
yeah. It involves everyone. It has been like too many years to have it settled down, and now we have like many people that can get these benefits. I'm really happy for people living in Madrid, honestly. But yes, maybe the other one is more like universal for everyone, almost for everyone,
Yeah. Yeah.
more
Perfect.
popular.
Yeah. Yeah. And as a final point, maybe of discussion, obviously a lot of people come into Spain, might have assets or investments in other countries, as we've talked about. They might have work income from another country, and Spain obviously has double taxation treaties with some countries. So, what do people need to keep in mind with regards to double taxation treaties that Spain has with other countries and how it affects their taxation?
Well, double taxation agreements are really great. If they weren't there, honestly, it would be crazy how much people pay for the same thing. And they really helps us to understand how taxes work in another countries, and also how to uh, tax, depending on the type of income that we're talking about, how to avoid taxing twice. The These double taxation treaties, almost they have the same structure. All of them, they have the same structure. They are divided by types of income, like capital gains, income from employment, income from rentals, income from investments, dividends. They all have those sections of the income tax declaration, and they, for example, let us know in case this income has been generated in the country where the physical person has the residence. Then it will be taxed only in that country. Or if the income has been generated in, I don't know, related to the state services, or people who have been providing service to the government, then only that country's government is able to tax this. So it's really great, and it's really gives us an instruction. And with our US clients, we are really sorry. We are really sad that they are forever linked to the US. So even if they become tax residents in Spain, they still need to pay taxes on the US forever. So with them, we have this thing that normally in the US, if I'm not mistaken, they pay taxes around April, the month of April each year, more or less, right? April, something like that. So when our income tax declaration campaign starts in Spain, which is around April and until the end of June, we already have their taxes that they already paid in the US or in that other country. So we are able to deduct some of what they already paid there. Sometimes it's everything, depending on the income. And sometimes it's part of it, but mostly it comes to pay a little bit more, because here in Spain we pay a little bit more. So, but at least we are able to deduct something. So that's how it works. And we know that tax year in other countries works differently, but we have this advantage that with us it's with the natural year and the tax year are the same. So and we feel taxes like around the middle of the year. So many clients already had fulfilled their taxes abroad when they come to do their income tax declarations with us.
Perfect. Great. Guys, any final words before we bring the discussion to a close?
So we would like to tell you thank you, Johnny. Really, to speak about taxes in Spain, it's quite a difficult topic. So we try to make it as easy as is possible. And we can meet in the next video if your followers still will have questions.
Great.
Yes, thank you so much for letting us join you to this meeting. We are really glad we could help. And yes, taxes are complicated, and we completely understand that. So it's very normal that you still have some questions, that you do not understand some specific technical words. It's pretty normal. So we are here to help. So anyone that still have some questions or specific doubts.
Yeah, I also just wanted to add something, that we have a free consultation in ProSpain Consulting, like 15 minutes. So if you still have a question, you can just call to ProSpain Consulting and take a free consultation.
Fantastic. Guys, thank you so much. Really informative, and I'm sure everyone watching found it really helpful as well. So with that, we'll say goodbye.
Bye-bye.
So I hope you found this interview interesting and informative, guys. Remember, if you need help with your taxes in Spain, then be sure to check out ProSpain Consulting. You can do so via the link in the description, and they'll be open to hear your questions and concerns and offer a helping hand. Leave a comment and let me know what the most interesting thing that you found out from this interview was that you didn't know before. Till next time, I'll see you on the next one, and let's get this money.